Welcome everybody, my name is Greg from Atypical Engineer, and this video is a tutorial about getting set up with ReactJS on Windows 10. So what we'll be doing is we will be installing Git, we will be installing Node.js, we will be creating a starter React application, we will make some code changes that show you hello world print in your web browser. You'll run your development server on your own machine and see the changes in real time, and then we'll push your changes up to a new GitHub account that we'll be creating. So this is the ultimate beginner's tutorial to React. Everything is step by step, and it's done on a brand new Windows 10 machine that I just took out of the box. So if you're ready to go, let's get started.
All right, here we are. We are in the captain's chair and we have the computer in front of us. And to start off this Hello World tutorial, we are going to install Git on your Windows machine. Now, you might already have Git installed, and if you do, then you don't have to worry about this piece of the tutorial. You can skip forward to the next section. But if not, then you can walk through this with me. So like most good things in life these days, installing Git on Windows starts with a nice little Google search. Once we have the search bar open, we'll type in Git Windows and hit enter. And the first link that comes up, Git downloading package. You'll click that link and then you'll click on the download manually link and we will save the file and we'll wait for this little download. Once it downloads, we will open it up the executable. And you can see here the installer coming up. So we're just going to click through the installer. And I'm just going to leave all the defaults. I'm not really too concerned here, but I do want to note that we have git bash. And that's going to be important because we're going to be doing some stuff from the command line. So make sure that the git bash is checked. And then we're going to keep clicking through the installer. And finally, we get to the end. And now we will just wait for this to install. Okay, and once it's done, we can go ahead and hit the next button here. And then go down to the start menu, and I'm going to look up git bash. So that is what we want to be using. Git bash will open up this command line shell, mingw64. We can do an ls here. We can do all of the normal Unix styles commands in this mingw shell. So that's what we were going for. We also have git in this shell. So that is a positive. And now we're going to make our projects directory, typing mkdir projects. We're going to go into the projects directory and we're going to see it's empty. We'll do a pwd, which tells us C users grego/projects. And here we are all set up. We have our mingw shell, but we have no NVM. NVM is the node version manager, so that's what we'll be working on next. Okay, here we are. We have installed Git and got our command line working. So now we're going to install something called NVM. But unfortunately for Windows users, NVM does not actually exist. So we have to use an alternative called NVM Windows. Now, NVM Windows is officially recommended by Google and by Microsoft as the version manager for Node.js on Windows. So we should feel pretty comfortable using this piece of software. So that being said, we're going to go here to the GitHub of NVM-Windows, and we're going to scroll down until we see a download link. And once we see the download now button, we're going to go ahead and click that, and we're going to come to this page that has all of the different download options. Once we scroll down, we're going to see that there's an option called nvm-setup.zip, and we're going to click that one in order to download it. We'll save the file on our hard drive. And this is going to download a zip file, so we'll go up to the downloads bar and we will open that zip file and then run this application called NVM Setup. Once you run NVM Setup, you'll open the installer and you can accept the license agreement. And then I'm just going to click through these installer options. I'm okay with all of the defaults, and we will get to the installing screen. It's pretty quick, and then we'll hit finish. So that's it. Now we have NVM installed. So let's go ahead and minimize the browser bar, and we'll go back to our mingw shell, and we'll hit NVM, but it doesn't work. And that's because we need to restart the mingw shell before the settings take effect. So we'll go back, and we'll go back to the git bash application, and then we'll open this mingw shell again, And if we do an nvm here, we see that there is a version running, so that is pretty good. Let's go nvm version, and it's 1.1.7, so all is well. Okay, and now let's do an nvm list command, and this will list all of the versions of Node.js that are installed on your machine, and you can see that there are no installations recognized. So the problem is that you have the version manager, but you haven't actually installed any versions of Node.js yet. So now it's time to install a version of Node.js. To do that, you can go ahead and type nvm install latest, and now you'll see this prompt that says it's downloading the latest Node.js version 14.2.0 at the time of the filming of this video. And finally, when it finishes, you can see that we have a prompt that says installation complete, and then if we want to use this version, we can type nvm use 14.2.0. So let's remember this for later. For the time being, we will clear the terminal, and then we'll type nvm list again. And this time, we see a 14.2.0 on the screen. So awesome, we've installed our version of Node. And now if we type nvm use 14.2.0, we should see an output that indicates that we're using that version of Node. And then now we'll type npm, and when we hit enter, we see a output that indicates success. So npm is working, Node.js is installed, and now it is time to set up our React application. Okay, so we've installed nvm, we've installed Node.js, and we have installed Git. So it is time to create our React application. Now, if you haven't made your projects directory, you can go ahead and do that. You can cd into your projects directory. And this is where I'm going to create the React project. So I'm going to go over to the browser, and I'm going to look at this page that I have called create-react-app.dev. Okay, this is a command called npx create react app, and then the name of your project. So I'm going to type in that command and call it Pokedex. And then I'm going to hit enter. And this will create your React application. It will create some starter code for you so that you can run it, get something working very quickly, and it will initialize a Git repository for you. So there's a lot of things that get done with this command. It's super convenient and super easy. And then finally, it says that we finished and that we can go cd Pokedex and then do npm start to start the application. And it wishes us a happy hacking session, which is super, super thoughtful of them. So we will hit the cd Pokedex, and then we will go ahead and do npm start. And what you're going to find is that the npm starts up, it runs a React script, and it'll automatically connect to the Node server that's now running on your local environment. So this, you'll see it's localhost 3000 up in the browser. And here we are. This is the starter page for ReactJS. So you basically have a complete development environment here, and you're running Node.js on your local machine. But if you go over to the MinGW window and you hit Control-C, this will terminate the Node.js. And then if you go over to the browser again, you'll see that if you try to refresh, it's broken. Okay, so you have to have Node.js running so that you can see the output of what you're working on. And then just to make the point, we'll go over and we will create, we'll do npm start again, and we'll come back here and we'll refresh the page, and we'll see that we can refresh fine when npm and when Node.js is running. So this is kind of going to be your workflow. You have to get Node.js running, and then you'll see the browser open up, and then you can go ahead and make your changes, which is what we'll eventually get to at the end of this video. All right, so before we start making change to the code, we're going to commit our project up to GitHub. So this is another step where if you already know how to use GitHub and you already know how to use Git command line, then you can just do this yourself. But for those of you who have never used it before, we're going to go through it. Okay, so we're going to hit this website, desktop.github.com. And this will bring up the download link for the GitHub desktop installer. And one thing here is that so developers really should be using Git from the command line, but when we're teaching absolute beginners, then we want to kind of isolate the thing we're trying to learn, which is React, and we want to simplify everything else around it. So things like learning Git from the command line are really an unnecessary distraction in the first couple weeks that you're learning to code. It's better to just take something that simplifies the process, and that's why I will advise people, if you're installing Git for the first time on this tutorial, then use the desktop user interface setup instead of the command line. So we're going to go ahead here and click, and then we're going to hit save file, and this is going to download the installer like we've already done a couple times in this video. And then we'll go up to our downloads bar, and we're going to open up the executable. And this is going to show this little GitHub desktop dialog that means it's being installed. And once it is installed, we see the welcome screen. So now it's launched. We have a couple options here. So if you already have a GitHub account, obviously you can use that one. You can just click the sign in to GitHub link. But we're going to create a free account here. So you can hit the create your free account, and it'll open GitHub in a web page. You can go ahead and type in a username. You can type in an email address, and then you can go in and type a password, and then scroll all the way down to the bottom and go ahead and create your account. Once you create your account, it'll bring you to this page, and I'll usually just scroll down and skip all of these questions and just hit complete setup. And now I need to verify my email address. And once you do that, you'll be here at this page. You can refresh, and it will say your email has been verified. Here is the starter display of your GitHub account online, and this basically means that GitHub will host a copy of your code on their servers because now you have this GitHub account. So what we're going to do next is go back to our desktop application. We're going to link our local repository with the repository on GitHub servers in their remote location. So you can hit the sign in button, and then you can type in your username or email address that you specified previously, and then the password, and sign in. And now it's going to ask you for a name. So this is like your actual name, and it's going to ask you for an email. And these are important because when you make a commit, when you make a code change, people need to be able to know who you are, and they need to be able to contact you so that they can ask any questions or place any blame on you when things break, or if they have some questions about the code. This is basically like your signature on any of the changes you make. So go ahead and fill those out. I never submit any of these usage statistics. And then we're going to log in, and we get to this screen, which is the screen to basically get started on the GitHub desktop. So there's this highlighted thing that says to create a tutorial repository, but we don't need to do that right now. For our purpose, we'll just go down to this fourth option, add an existing repository from your hard drive. And we're going to go to the choose button, and then we're going to navigate to our projects and the top level of our project, which is called Pokedex. And then we'll select that folder, and then the add repository button. So now we have registered kind of that repository with this desktop software, but we haven't linked it to our remote account on GitHub yet. So the next thing to do is just to see this little blue button over here that says publish repository. And this is going to link up our local repository with that remote one. So in order to do that, we're just going to give the repository a little description, Pokedex implemented in React, and then I'm going to uncheck you can either check or uncheck the private thing, and you can publish it. And cool. The last thing is that once that finishes, we're going to go back to the website, and then we're just going to refresh. And now we can see that we actually have a repository here. So we pushed the code from our local machine. We push a copy of that code up to GitHub servers. And if we click this, okay, we can see that it says a Pokedex implemented in React, and it has all of our source files here that we pushed from our local machine. So they're kind of giving a backup, and this is a place where you can collaborate with other developers. So next we're going to get started making code changes, but before that we have to get up a code editor. So let's get started. Okay, now that we've pushed our code up to our remote repository, it's time to make some changes. And to do that, we need a code editor. So in this video and video series, we're going to use VSCode. If you have your own code editor, you're already a developer and you have your other preferences, then go ahead and use that. I don't really care. This is another case of we're learning React. I want to hold constant every variable that I can and isolate all of the difficulty to React. And so I'm choosing basically the simplest possible code editor, the easiest to use, and VS Code, in my opinion, is that. So we're going to go ahead and get set up with VS Code. If you have something else, then you can just skip this section. So the first thing we're going to do is open up a browser, and then we will go into the search bar, and we will search VS Code Windows. And this will bring up a page that will have a download link. So let's go ahead and click on the top link here. And there's the Windows installer. So let's go ahead and download the Windows installer. And again, we'll save the file. And then we're going to open up the executable. And it will start right up here. So here we have the welcome screen of VS Code. One thing that I always do is I disable telemetry. So you can go up to File, you can go to Preferences, and then the Settings button. And telemetry is just something that sends information back to Microsoft about how you use the software. So I try to disable as much of the stuff as I can. So you can go to your user settings and then telemetry and disable it. And then just X out your settings. And now you're going to go to File and Open Folder. And then you're going to navigate to your Pokedex directory, or whatever you called it, and you choose the top level directory of your project, and then you open it. And here we are. We have our code editor set up. We have all the code here on the left-hand sidebar, and we can even just go and play around and browse a little bit, and you should recognize some of this stuff, like this image here. So we are ready to go, and we're ready to make some changes. Okay, so we are ready finally to start making some code changes. As long as this video has been, you have to admit that it is pretty easy to get set up with all of this stuff. They've made it really easy for people to enter into the development community. So in anticipation of getting started, we're just going to cd into the directory where our project lives. So I'm going to go into projects and then go into Pokedex. And then I'm going to ls, and that's going to list all of the files in this directory. And then I'm going to run npm start. So if you remember before, npm start was what started up the browser and started up the React application. And now we can see that it says edit source src/app.js and save to reload the page. So we're just going to follow the instructions. So we'll go over to the VS Code, and we will open the source, and then we will open the app.js. And this should look pretty familiar. On the React application, it said edit source/app.js and save to reload. So all we're going to do is we're going to type in a little hello, world. My name is Gregory, and we're going to delete the other code there. And before we save it, we're going to just drag the windows so that we can see them both at the same time, because this will look a little bit cooler. And then when I save it, you can see that it's automatically reloaded in the browser. So that's pretty cool. You can just make changes to your file, and you can immediately see what happens. Now we're going to let's just add another paragraph tag, and we'll just put a little wink face just to do something different. And when I save again, you can see that the wink face comes up. So these are the only changes. Hello World is super simple. We just want to make it so that we can see something print out that we wrote. And that's accomplished. So now we're going to commit those changes and push them into your repository, and then we'll be done with this tutorial. All right, and in the last section, we made code changes to our application. So now we're going to push those code changes up to our remote repository, and then we'll be good to go. So we're going to go back to our GitHub desktop installation, and you can see that it's already showing the code changes automatically. So you can see the changes. The lines that we deleted are in red. Okay, the lines that we added are in green, and the files that we changed are over here on the left-hand side. And since it's checked, we know that it's staged for commit. Okay, so if we just give our commit a title saying hello world, and then we just give it a basic description, then we can go down here and click the commit to master button, and that saves this file in a commit on our master branch on our local machine. Okay, so now we have this change saved on our local machine, but we need to push it up to the repository on GitHub. And you can do that because now it's prompting you here. It says that you have one commit on your local machine that is not in your remote repository. So let's first, before we push, just open up our GitHub account online. Okay, so we'll go to github.com, and if we're already logged in, that's awesome. And we will go and we will click on our Pokedex repository, and we'll just scroll down here, and we can see that there's one commit. Okay, and it's a Pokedex written in ReactJS, but most importantly, there's one commit. All right, and we scroll down, and we see that it's just the initialization commit. So we'll go back to the desktop software, and we'll hit the push button, and that is going to push your code changes up to the remote repository. So now, once it's done, it says no local changes, and as you might expect, you can go back to the GitHub website, and now you can refresh, and you're going to see your change that you made on the remote repository. So that's awesome. You've pushed your code change on into a remote location where you can have your code backed up and you can share it with other developers. And that's basically it for the Hello World example for React.js on Windows. I really hope that this video has been helpful to you. And if you like my style or you like what I'm doing, then it would really help if you like this video or if you subscribe to the channel, because I'm going to keep making videos just like this one to help people get started. So come back later, and thank you so much for watching.